Is that the real takeaway from this vice presidential debate last night? Not who won the issues or who performed best, but the fact that we got through 90 minutes without poison and vitriol being part of the conversation?
And I think people really welcomed it. I think also there were big takeaways on middle class, abortion, and authenticity.
Okay, so on the abortion and authenticity questions, the question of the timing in which those conversations happened in the debate is a big one. Obviously, it started on the Middle East, given the news flow of yesterday, Celinda, the perhaps very viral moment of Tim Walz and J.D. Vance going back and forth over January 6th and the 2020 election results didn't happen until very late. And that authenticity argument was kind of a closing one for Tim Walz. Was all of that too late for it to make a difference, or does social media make up for that?
I think social media makes up for it, and I think your coverage makes up for it. The press's interpretation of the debate is really important to the voters, and I think most voters, they'll say they watched it, but they probably stayed on for about 10 minutes max, and then they went on to other things. And particularly because this debate wasn't a fist fight, it was kind of boring, which voters are kind of welcoming that it was boring. But I think that it's the press accounts afterwards and the social media that lifts it up that's really important.
Well, last night during the debate, I'll bring it back to New York here, one of the more heated moments when Walz and Vance discussed women's reproductive rights. I want you to listen to what they said. Celinda will have you respond. Take a listen.
Donald Trump put this all into motion. He brags about how great it was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade. In Minnesota, we are ranked first in healthcare for a reason. We trust women.
I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. In the state of Ohio, we had a referendum in 2023, and the people of Ohio voted overwhelmingly, by the way, against my position. And I think that what I learned from that, Nora, is that we've got to do a better job at winning back people's trust.
Celinda, J.D. Vance got high marks from some on that question. He was criticized by progressives, as you might imagine. But what can the Harris campaign learn about the way he framed that issue over the course of the next 5 weeks?
Well, I think one thing that they can learn is, and they have learned, is that the Republicans, J.D. Vance is right, the Republicans are in trouble on this issue. And every week they try a new strategy to get out of that trouble. They tried the states' rights, and then people say, no, I want national guarantee. They tried that we're going to be the party of babies. And our party said, great, let's double the funding for maternal and child health care. Let's double the funding for prenatal care. Let's double the funding for Head Start. And, of course, we didn't get anybody to take us up on it. Now it's like we have a trust problem and we're going to fix it. Yes, you have a fundamental trust problem when you take away people's freedoms. And the real stories of women are going to counter all of this rhetoric. And actually, the abortion moment in the debate was the #1 moment that was ranked highest for Walz and was the biggest contrast, and to Walz's and the Democrats' benefit.
Interesting that it was abortion more so the moment on January 6th that already has been spun into an ad. It does raise the question, Celinda, if the Republican ticket wants to gain voters' trust on reproductive rights, maybe the Democratic ticket wants to gain more traction on the economy or help to ease the pressure of the border question. How is that going to be done from here when there are going to be no more organized forums like this? No more debates are on the books between now and November 5th. So is this all advertising wars from here? How does it work?
It's advertising wars, social media wars. And the second best testing part of the debate for Walz was his commitment to the middle class and saying that both he and Harris rooted soundly in the middle class. And he looked like he's someone from the middle class and got out of his personal background and then came back to that authentic personal middle class experience at the end of the debate. Our #1 goal has to be to get out our economic plan. And that's in advertising. That's in Democrats passing it on to their friends and family and neighbors. That's in social media, every vehicle available to us, because Harris is still not that well known and it's relatively new to the voters, particularly low information voters. So I take a great deal of confidence away from the fact that Walz's second best testing answer was on the middle class.
What's going to be the October surprise, Celinda? How does Kamala Harris, how do Democrats get ready for it?
You don't think that war in the Middle East and strikes on
Well, I don't know. We got three in one day yesterday. We got a dock workers strike. We've got a natural disaster. Surely October has more in store.
I hope not. The voters hope not. I think that I think the voters are just like, what's going to happen next? Who can imagine? The unimaginable keeps happening and happening. And I think in that context, people are not going to look for chaotic leadership. They're going to look for steady hands, stability, people who are going to bring people together. And Waltz really demonstrated that last night and work to get the solutions we need to the problems. Can we just simply agree on things and move forward?
Well, while a lot of voters might be over it already, just wanting this whole process to be over, there are at least some out there, Celinda, who have not yet made up their minds, who have not yet heard enough to do so. How small do you expect that basket is now? We were talking, what, maybe 5 to 7% of the electorate beforehand. Is that even narrower now in these final weeks?
Yes, it's about 9% who show up in the polls, but about half of those people probably in the end won't vote. So we're down to about 5% who are truly undecided. There are some soft support on each side, but, you know, both campaigns are switching now to a turnout game and then trying to get those last 5%. And for the Democrats, it's women, it's non-college educated women, it's married women, and trying to keep them from voting the same way as their husbands.
What's the most important thing for Kamala Harris to show America here as she visits these states that were hit by Hurricane Helene? She's down south today, Celinda, in Georgia. She'll continue her tour of the Southeast, apparently after Joe Biden wraps up his day in the Carolinas. When you consider the optics of this moment, what does she need to show people who still haven't decided who to vote for?
I think that she needs to show compassion, which she easily does, but also effectiveness. People want to know that you're going to get something done in a crisis. And actually, interestingly, people think that could be a major role for a vice president. So this is she's proving herself in an arena where she's already pretty proven. FEMA is a very popular agency, and they're doing an incredible job, helped by a lot of other people, National Guard, et cetera. And this is interesting because it weaves into the story, right, of Tim Waltz being in the National Guard for so many years. And then I think the other thing is that she's listening to people. She's not yelling at them. She's not throwing paper towels at them. And that whether you're a Democrat, Republican, whether you voted for her or not, she is going to get things done for you.